Hello everybody, it's Foxy speaking, and welcome to another episode of Foxy's Fun Inspirational Chats. And today I will be your host. Excuse the format. It's our new home residence, so it's a different format for the remainder of time we're here. So last episode we had it. It was in the old residence, but never mind. Never mind. But yes. This episode is about a young boy who aspired to be a fisherman. In a little remote village surrounded by mountains and lakes, surrounded a lonely little cottage about several hundreds of yards away from the village, which was where the fisherman lived. There was a lonely little cottage near a lonely little fisherman's laking marina. And there who lived in a little cottage was a little boy and his family. The little boy always looked out of his cottage window or out of his garden, watching the fishermen jump in their rowing boats as they'd row out along the lake to catch their freshwater fish for the village. It fascinated the boy beyond any means of attention. He had the desire that one day this will be him, where he'll be fishing like the village fisherman. As time came to pass, and as the little boy matured, he was about a year away from entering secondary school. He woke up one morning. He got out of bed, brushed his teeth, got himself washed, got himself dressed. He went downstairs and said good morning to his parents and asked, "Good morning, Mum and Dad. Can I go fishing one day?" His parents looked at the boy. "Well, you, young Christopher," his mother said. "Well, you're too young to go fishing. You'll have to have assistance." "Well, young Christopher," said the father, "a lot of the fishermen are from the village, but I don't see why they won't accept me." Young Christopher smiled. He felt a little bit nervous because his parents had a point, but he was excited nonetheless about the attempt of going fishing. "It may be a little risky," Christopher's mother said, "but take care, both of you, if you're doing it." "Oh, we will," Christopher said happily. Excited as he was a little bit restrained and nervous given the complexities, or potential complexities, the actions might arise. But he was nonetheless happy and confident that he was going to do the fishing and succeed well at the fishing all the same. The next day, as the day wore on, Christopher and his father walked down to the marina. They came up and saw a man at the marina, the fishing lake marina. "Excuse me, sir," Christopher's father said. "Now, are there any vacancies for fishermen, or any training for fishermen? I mean, I do work full time, but this is really for my young son." "I'm sorry," the man said. "Your son's too young. You have to be 15 to be an assistant fisherman. But you can't be an unsupervised fisherman until you are 18 years of age, once you've left full-time education." Christopher and his father were disappointed by the news, but they understood that health and safety, especially when age was concerned, came into play when it involved the fishing and all that. "But if you like," the man said, "when our fishermen have came back from their freshwater fishing, they can show both of you how it's all done." Christopher's father scratched his head and wasn't certain. Christopher thought for a moment, but then excitement suddenly lit up in his face and said, "Oh yes, please, thank you, sir." Christopher's father agreed and thought it be sensible that they both watched from hands-on experience instead of just taking the bull by the horns and diving out fishing with little to no experience or expertise in the fishing whatsoever. Over an hour had passed, and the freshwater fishermen had came back from their fishing expedition. "All right, men," the fisherman said. "Gosh, we caught a lot of freshwater trout for the day. More than enough for the village fishmonger supermarket." Yes. A lot of the men chatted and chimed. They were quite pleased with their fishing result. And so the fishermen loaded their net sacks of trout into the back of the truck, and it was going to be transported to the fishing village to be sold in the village fishmonger shops. And then they walked back to the man who was the manager of the freshwater fishing marina, and then they spotted Christopher and his father. "Hello, men," the fisherman said. "Oh, and we haven't seen you around here. And what is you two doing here?" And then they came to the boss, and the boss explained to the fisherman about Christopher's desire to become a fisherman, but also explained that because Christopher is underage, he wouldn't be allowed to be a fisherman as a job until he reached the young enough age where he could be a fisherman but assisted by the experienced fisherman, and couldn't be a fisherman with little to no supervision until he was 18 years of age. The fisherman was surprised, but they agreed to show Christopher and his father the hands-on experience of freshwater fishing. "Come on, men. It's time to show you the real action and the real experience of freshwater fishing," the fisherman said. "Come join us. Jump in our boat," said the second fisherman. And so Christopher, his father, and the three fishermen jumped into their boat, and then they set off along the freshwater. As they sailed far out into the lake, they had to go far enough before they were at a proper fishing zone to catch some freshwater fish. "This here is where we catch our freshwater trout," said one fisherman. "And here we get our fishing rod out, and once it's bitten our fishing rod, we sling it up into the boat, and then we bring a big net down and crane it out, and then we've got some freshwater trout." "Unusual method of fishing," Christopher said. "But you certainly do it rather professionally," said Christopher's father. It's just a job. It's how we do it. It's the way the village demands for us to do it," said one of the fishermen. Without our skills, the village wouldn't have any fish. It would all have to be exported. It costs a fortune to get fish imported to our village nowadays," said the other fisherman. And so, but before long, the fisherman cried, "I've got a trout!" The trout had bitten the fishing rod, and so he winded up with the fishing rod and chucked it onto the boat. They put the trout into the box. The box was full of trout, and then they decided, right, nets away, and so they got the net in from the crane, and then they craned out a huge bunch of trout. Christopher and his father watched in awe, amazement and amusement at the sight of all that freshwater trout being fished from the lake. Once enough water had rinsed out of the net, the boat crane steadily turned and lowered the freshwater trout onto the boat, but obviously tightly secured in the net. And then it was time to go back to the fishing marina. Once back at the fishing marina, the fisherman let Christopher and his father help load the sack of trout into the fishery village truck. And so they loaded it onto the fishery truck with all their might, and then the fishery truck drove away to the village fishmonger's market. The manager was impressed with the fishermen's supervision of Christopher and his father for the freshwater fishing experience. But it was only one and one only time that they were able to do it. Christopher and his father said goodbye to the fishermen, and then they walked back home. And Christopher and his father said goodbye to the freshwater fishing marina manager, and thanked him very much for letting Christopher learn some hands-on experience of fishing. And then they both walked back home for supper. They had their vegetable soup supper once they came back home, and Christopher and his father chatted the day away to Christopher's mother. Christopher's mother was captivated in awe, but was happy for her son that he'd learned some hands-on experience of fishing. Even though he was too young for the fishing job, he was happy that the fishing marina manager and the fisherman allowed him and his father to learn some fishing experience. And that was certainly more than enough to make Christopher and his father happy, given the fact that young Christopher very, very much liked fishing. And he still very, very much aspired to take up fishing for a full-time job, or one of his first jobs, once old enough in age to do so. The end. Well, I know I said I was going to return to the Foxy's Fun Inspirational Chats episodes, and like I said before, no less than 2 episodes per month starting in October 2025, but may I take the time of thanking each and every one of you most kindly, sincerely for watching. Please let me know what your thoughts are on this in the comments down below. Thank you all for watching, and I shall certainly see you in the very next Foxy's Fun Inspirational Chats episode. Ta-ta for now, another time. From Foxy.